Good morning. Opening words are from our Roots of Resilience by Kimberly Ann Tomzak Carlson. Feel the gravity of the earth holding you in place. Wiggle your toes as if they were roots. Roots connect you to the earth, lending you strength. Gently sway in the wind, turning your body like a trunk of tree. Leaning this way and that, bending as the air pushes and pulls. What surrounds you may sway you, make you bend and feel unbalanced. Wiggle your toes. Know that your roots can hold you as you grow and learn. A tree is nourished by the soil and water. You are nourished by food, and the earth grows in the water it provides. You are cared for and loved by many people. Breathe deeply. Breathe deeply. Still yourself. Know that your roots are strong. Wiggle your roots.
Whose rock is this? This rock comes from underneath the library when they were digging a hole for an elevator. And Meredith McCulloch, who was the director, gave it to me because she knew that I loved rocks. Now, whose rock is this? My rock? The library's rock? The guy with the jackhammer who found it? Bedford's rock? Whose common is this? For 100 years, there was a lawsuit between the town and the church over who owned this common. And finally, in 1976, it went to the Massachusetts State Land Court, and they decreed that the front half of the common belongs to the town and the back half of the common belongs to the church. But that parchment deed is a shallow deed of ownership because this land is deep. Under the wooden floor below us is a dirt cellar, and then sandy soil and tree roots and animal skeletons and groundwater and granite ledge and shiny mica and an occasional garnet. Below that are the invisible places, the crust of the earth, the mantle, the intense deep metal core, and it is all the earth's and the fullness thereof. The people who walked on this land from the time the glaciers melted 12,000 years ago didn't need a parchment deed to prove who owned the land. For thousands of years here they fished and hunted and cut the reeds in the river to weave their baskets. They called the two rivers that bordered them the Musketaquid and the Shawsheen. The land was called Shawsheen. The people came to be called Shawsheen. The river and the land and the people, all Shawsheen. That time has ended. By 50 years after the Europeans came, the cruelty of many of the settlers forced the Shawsheen people to migrate into New Hampshire and then into Canada. This land holds all their history and all of ours. We acknowledge that this place was their homeland long before it was ours. This piece of pegmatite rock and the river fish and the baby rabbits, and the forsythia, and the frost heaves, and the medicinal springs, and you and I, and the settlers, and the redcoats, and the Minutemen, and all the people who have ever lived here, we acknowledge now they are the earth's and the fullness thereof. Our opening hymn is number 38, Morning Has Broken. Please rise in body and in spirit, and let's sing.
Welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, more love, more justice, and more joy into the world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no God, you are welcome here. Welcome to a special Earth Day service offered by and created with the Environmental Justice Committee here at First Parish in Bedford. I want to say a special welcome to all of our visitors this morning here in person and out in the Zoomosphere. We are so glad you are with us. Here in the sanctuary, you were invited to fill out a blue connection card if you are a visitor. You'll find them along the back of the pews. You can give it to one of the ushers during the collection time, or you can leave it at the membership table, which you will find outside the common room. We will add you to our mailing list. In Zoom, we will put a link in the chat. You can click on that and fill out a virtual connection card. Parents and caregivers of little ones, there is a nursery available downstairs for your convenience, but we are always super happy to have our littlest ones here in the sanctuary with us as well. After the service, everyone is welcome to join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship in the common room. A couple of announcements today. There is a climate cafe today after the service from 11:30 to 12:15. Parishioner Bob McClatchy, who is an atmospheric scientist, will share a few comments on the state of the global climate. He'll talk about questions like, what is the greenhouse effect? What does it mean that global temperatures have risen? And what are climate tipping points? And why are those a very big deal? And we'll then open it up and have a shared discussion facilitated by myself. This is a hybrid event, so the in-person location is the Bacon Room, which you will find on the second floor balcony level. The Zoom link, if you want to join on Zoom, was sent out to the church email list. At that same coffee hour, if you go there, you're going to see a lot of tables and chairs set out. They are set out for the Wisdom Tea event, which is happening today at 12:30. The Wisdom Tea is a special invitation-only event that we hold every other year, honoring members who have been here for 25 years or more. So if you are attending today's Wisdom Tea event, it is in the common room at 12:30. While you are in the common room, stop by the caring card table. The lay pastoral care team will have the card table out. You can stop by the table and fill out and sign a card of encouragement or congratulations or support that will go out to one of your fellow congregants. And someone from the pastoral care team will be at the table to help you with that. And also, while you are in the common room during coffee hour, by the piano, on the bench, you will see a box. Bob, would you like to show the box? This fabulous, stupendous box. Sunday, May 18th, is going to be a special service led by our senior youth group at First Parish. And it is going to be a question box style service like I did earlier in the year, which means there will be an opportunity for you to pose questions to the senior youth group in advance, and that they will then answer during the service. So that question box will be in the common room today. After that, it will live outside the Elm Street entrance over the next several weeks. You can write your questions on a slip of paper, fold them up, drop them in the box. Please submit your questions by May 11th, and then the youth will review them and answer them during a very special service. That is it for all of our announcements. So now if you will please rise again in body or spirit, we'll recite together our unison affirmation that we say every Sunday. The words are in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Please be seated. Our story for all ages today is based on a true story that took place in India about 300 years ago. It is adapted from Amrita's Tree in the Barefoot Book of Earth Tales. There was a girl named Amrita who lived in a village in India a long time ago. Her village was surrounded by forests which were sacred to her people, and one tree in particular was Amrita's favorite. It was at the center of a sacred grove near the village. It was a very ancient tree, and she would stop and lean against it every day on her way back to her home, feeling its ancient strength. She would whisper her secrets to the tree. Sometimes she climbed the tree and pretended that she was a forest queen. Well, one day, as in against her tree, enjoying the sounds of the forest, she suddenly heard the squawks of frightened birds, and she heard animals running, and there was the sound of a large group of men moving through the forest, trampling brush under feet and cracking branches. And as Amrita looked up in alarm, the men burst into the sacred grove of trees where she sat. They had saws and hatchets and a big cart for hauling things away. One man was the foreman, the leader of the group, and he said, "All right, men, chop them all down." "What are you doing?" cried Amrita. "We are building a new wing for the palace for the Maharaja, and we need more wood for the project, and these trees will do just fine." "These trees are sacred to my people," said Amrita. "The orders of the Maharaja are all I care about," said the foreman. So Amrita raced back to the village and found her mother, who she told what was happening. And Amrita's mother and the women of the village went to the grove where the men were. "Sir," said Amrita's mother, trying to explain, "these trees are sacred to our people, and they are our life. Their roots keep the land and our villages from being washed away during monsoon season. Their fruits and nuts feed us and our animals. They shelter the forest creatures that we live with. I have orders from the Maharaja, said the foreman. He waved to the men with the axes. Cut them all down. Amrita scarcely had time to think. She hurled her body against her sacred tree, wrapping her arms tightly around it. Foolish girl, yelled the foreman, let go. Who do you think you are? I am Amrita, and I will not let go, said Amrita. I have orders, said the foreman. I will not let go, said Amrita. So the other women saw what Amrita was doing, and one by one they too began to wrap their bodies around the trees. And all the men with their axes didn't know what to do. They stood around in confusion. They couldn't cut the trees down with people holding on to them. Finally, the foreman waved them away in disgust. The Maharaja will hear about this, he warned. Everyone in the village was very afraid. What would happen when the Maharaja found out? Well, the next day, in a thunder of hooves and in a cloud of dust, the Maharaja himself arrived at the village in a magnificent chariot pulled by 12 horses, with a large group of soldiers and retainers by his side. And the Maharaja climbed down from the chariot in all of his regal majesty. Where is this Amrita? The voice of the Maharaja boomed. Where is this little girl who defies the will of the Maharaja? And the women joined hands and pulled their children close. But Amrita rose to greet the Maharaja. I am Amrita, she said, with all the dignity of a forest queen, but inside she was afraid. And the Maharaja said, thank you, Amrita. Thank you for reminding this Maharaja what is important. The Maharaja had a silken scroll in his hands, and he put it in Amrita's hands. And he said, I present this royal decree to you and to the women of your village in honor of your courage and your wisdom. And I promise that from this day on, no tree in this forest will ever be cut down. Hundreds of years later, folk songs of the people who hugged the trees are still told in villages throughout India. And Amrita's courage has inspired people across the land to stand together to protect forests. Thousands of trees have been saved and 1 million more planted. And in one sacred grove, Amrita's tree still stands. That is our story for today. Thank you for sharing it. We're going to sing the children out to their RE classes with Jason Shelton's Children's Blessing. The words are in your order of service.
Good morning. I'm Liz Connors, and this is the time in our service when we invite you to come and share a joy or concern. Please try to keep your comments brief and on the personal side, and do state your name. After we hear from folks here in the sanctuary, we'll go to Zoom. And at the end of the service, I'll be here at the candle stand if anyone would like to light a candle in private.
Hello, you hear me? You can't see me, though. I'm Ginny Steele, a member of the Environmental Justice Committee. I was brought up to be a naturalist, among other things. My brother and I both became teachers of biology, among other things. In my case, the other things included UU religious education, which was my career for about 35 years. Our UU principles became the guideposts of my life and my teaching. I was particularly proud of the 8th principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. I never saw myself as an activist, but felt that I could help support the web of all existence by teaching, and especially by introducing children and adults to the world of nature. If they could experience nature, know something of its workings, they would care about it and do what they could to protect it. For 12 years, I was a guide at the Garden in the Woods for school groups, inviting the kids to really look at details, to wonder, to ask questions. I hope some of those kids kept wondering, thinking, and caring. When I moved to Carlton Willard Village 5.5 years ago, I found myself in the role of the resident naturalist. I teach about nature in many ways. And of course, the more I teach, the more I learn. I have learned a lot about forests and their crucial roles for life on Earth. And I have become a bit of an activist. When our third act group at Carlton Willard challenged residents to eat less meat, I was one of the leaders of the campaign, speaking up and creating posters. Forests must not be cut down so more meat can be produced. People must eat less meat. After reading about Miyawaki forests, a small group of Carlton Willard residents came together to work toward creating such a mini forest on our campus. We worked on this dream for many months. Then, this March, we learned it would not be possible on our campus. I'm now meeting with a group of townspeople to promote the planting of one or more mini forests, not Miyawaki forests, in suitable places in Bedford. And I'd be happy to talk about this with anyone after the service. The more I learned about the role of forests in mitigating climate change and supporting biodiversity, the more I wanted to do. I promote forests indirectly by contributing to various conservation organizations. These organizations are the activists that I am not. Personal level, I inherited a 15-acre woodlot in New Hampshire, which I hardly used. As a follower of Brandeis Professor of Environmental History, Brian Donahue, I read one of his studies which presented a vision for the future of New England. This vision of farmlands, woodlands, and wildlands led to the founding of the Northeast Wilderness Trust. This organization acquires land which will become forever wild, which in 300 years will be old-growth forest. My former woodlot is now part of their 95,000 acres of preserved land. But saving forests is not that simple, as I have learned. I recently read a book entitled How to Love a Forest. It was written by a professional forester in Vermont who bought a piece of forested land and is actively managing it for its own good. He is cutting many trees to give others a chance, spraying herbicide on invasive Japanese barberry, and planting thousands of acorns. Will my old woodlot become a thriving, healthy forest and live to be old growth without such intervention? I hope so, but I don't know. There is much I have yet to learn about promoting forests, but I'll keep doing it anyway, some of it right here in Bedford.
I hope I can make this work for me. Marjorie Romer. I'm also part of the Environmental Justice Committee, and I'm holding my notes upside down. This is a poem by Wendell Berry. It's called A Vision. If we will have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow-growing trees on a ruined place, renewing, enriching it. If we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of earth or heaven, then a long time after we are dead, the lives our lives prepare will live there, their houses strongly placed upon the valley sides, fields, and gardens, rich in the windows. The river will run clear as we will never know it, and over it birdsong like a canopy. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells in noon shade. On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand, its rich leaf fall drifting on its roots. The veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices, they will hear a music risen out of the ground. They will take nothing from the ground they will not return, whatever the grief at parting. Memory native to this valley will spread over it like a grove, and memory will grow into legend. Legend into song, song into sacrament. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility.
Hello. Hi. Good morning. My name is Skylar Aldridge. It's good to be back. I'm very happy to be introducing this month's Share the Plate. So each month, First Parish gives away half of our plate to a worthy cause. And this month, that is the Pink Haven Coalition. In the face of an administration that is increasingly hostile against trans people, this organization is focused on aiding and helping people to get access to what they need. Their actions include helping people to relocate to safer states, as well as to access medical care. And to tell you more about it, we have a video prepared.
Give me a second.
Oh.
The Pink Haven Coalition, formed 2 years ago to ensure the survival of two-spirit, trans, and gender-expansive people in a more extreme environment.
We knew a large, grassroots network of groups and individuals gave us the greatest resilience against fascist attacks, as well as the greatest access to resources, without submitting to the insecurities of the nonprofit world of grant cycles and information overshare. We needed to create a network that was both nimble and effective, with a strong security culture to protect everyone involved. This organizing plan has proven wise, as fascists more easily target forward-facing groups and individuals.
Both the UUA and UUSC have become vital partners in the struggle against trans genocide, as have a number of congregations and individuals around the United States. As Unitarians came together during the height of World War II to support people fleeing Nazi persecution, we see the same drive today. Unitarian Universalists have built a historical legacy to be accomplices in the work of trans survival, as well as access to human and financial resources that enable this difficult work to advance.
I have been involved with many organizations over the past 30 plus years, and rarely have I seen one run as effectively, passionately, and with such integrity as this one. Run by impacted people, for impacted people, by listening to those most impacted to get them to a place of safety and hopefully onto a life of self-actualization and success. In this particular time in our country, when so much is in flux, to know that there's an organization doing the work that needs to get done because purely and simply it needs to get done is such a gift, and I continue to treasure the opportunities I have to be a part of it.
The greatest honor for me is being there for our passengers as they share their grief and fear over the hateful conditions that have been imposed on them, and to be a witness to their tears of sadness. But then also, as we help them find hope and ways to greater safety, we give them possibility, then I also get to witness their tears of happiness and of hope. And this is what I want everyone to be able to feel.
$50% of the collection plate today will go to the Pink Haven Coalition. The offering will now be gratefully received. May it be joyfully given.
Good morning. I'm Corinne Dowd with the Environmental Justice Committee. This year's Earth Day theme, noted on earthday.org, is our power, our planet, and millions of people are taking peaceful action this month to demonstrate their support for renewable energy. It's a movement to end our reliance on fossil fuels and build a future powered by clean, renewable energy drawn from the sun, the water, and the air. And it inspired me to write this poem. Our planet, our power. Our precious Mother Earth, she's heating up. Fossil fuel fans are determined to make a buck. Non-renewables, our reliance needs to end. Transition to clean energy, let's transcend. Clean water, clean air, clean land. A better future we demand. Rally for environmental justice. Amplify unheard voices among us. This is our planet. We have the power. Careful how you fuel that kilowatt hour. Our magnificent world we must protect. She certainly deserves our love and respect. Let's do all we can from our heart and our soul. Earth stewards blessed with a salient role. Protecting our planet with ferocity, passion, and joy. Sailing our beautiful blue boat, our home. Ahoy!
So let me start by doing the thing that climate scientist Dr. Katharine Hayhoe says not to do when talking about climate change. Let me throw some facts at you. 2024 was the hottest year on record for the planet since we started recording climate observations back in 1850. 2024 beat the previous record-holding year, which was 2023, which beat the previous record-holding year, which was 2022, and so on. The last 10 years have been the hottest 10 years on record for the planet ever recorded since 1850. And 2025 is on track to beat them all again. So these are facts. These facts point to a reality, which is that we need to be doing more about climate change. And that means in a democracy, we need to be talking more about climate change. And that means, says Dr. Hayhoe, don't do what I just did. Don't start with facts when talking to your neighbors or your coworkers or your family about climate change. And you should be talking to your neighbors and your coworkers and your family about climate change, but don't start with facts. Facts come later. Don't lead with scary trends because fear shuts people down. Start with your common interests, start with your shared values, and start from a positive vision. Our reading today by Kentucky poet and farmer Wendell Berry is called A Vision. One day, he says, the river will run clear as we never know it, and over it, the birdsong like a canopy. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells in noon shade. On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest will stand. This is no paradisal dream, he insists. Its hardship is its possibility. If we are to care about the earth and care for the earth, it would be good if we learned to live in the intersection of hardship and possibility. Because climate change is a hard issue. Climate change, it has been said, is a wicked problem. That means it is scientifically complex. It has no single easy solution. The various approaches to meeting its challenges involve uncertainties and trade-offs. The impact of climate change touches every aspect of our lives in profound and often surprising ways, and that means by implication, so too will any solution. Climate change lays bare the vulnerabilities of the many interconnected systems on which we are totally dependent, but which under normal circumstances we are scarcely aware of, and whose existence we never question. It is a problem that has the potential for truly catastrophic harm, and yet most of the time it is an invisible problem, one we can safely pretend does not exist. Or at least, we used to be able to pretend. Right? Increasingly and with accelerating speed, we are still cleaning up from the last storm when the next one hits. And it is getting much harder to ignore the impact of accelerating climate change, and that may in fact be the very thing that saves us. Wicked problems defy solutions because they require ordinary human beings to perform sustained acts of cooperation and even self-sacrifice over a long period of time, with a poorly defined personal benefit, sometimes with significant personal costs, and with no guarantee of a positive outcome. That is not the kind of thing that human beings are naturally eager to do, right? We are human after all. So wicked problems are a heavy lift for humans, and it doesn't mean that we can't solve them. It just means it may not be pretty to watch us get there. Getting there is going to be messy. It may require some extraordinary interventions. It will definitely require extraordinary faith. If by faith we mean a long-term commitment to a positive vision that we have set our heart to, that we believe is possible but whose outcome is not assured. So by faith in this sense we mean faithfulness. Not arbitrary or unthinking belief, but wholehearted commitment, even when the outcome is uncertain. Now, consider the amazing story of Dashrath Maji, the mountain man of India. Dashrath Maji was a coal miner in the remote village of Galar, India, who lived from 1929 to 2007. Galar is located in mountainous terrain where impassable hills often isolate communities from each other. And villagers are sometimes forced to travel miles out of their way around a hill in order to access services. One day when Dashrath was a young man, his wife was injured in an accident, and because there was no easy access to the nearest hospital, she did not receive care in time, and she died. And Dashrath decided that no one else should suffer the same fate. So he resolved to improve the village's access to the hospital, and he did that by carving an access road through a mountain using nothing but his hammer and chisel. When he was finished, the road was 360 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 25 feet deep. It took him 22 years. He labored on the road with his hammer and chisel from 1960 to 1982, but Dashrath Maji's road cut the distance from the hospital from 55 kilometers to 15 kilometers. He had a vision born out of love and empathy, love for his wife, empathy that no one else should suffer as he had suffered. It was a good vision. And all he had to do to achieve that vision was to cut through a mountain and build a road from here to there. And what he had to work with was his own hands and a hammer and chisel. And perhaps, unfortunately for him, he believed it could be done. He knew he could do it. Its hardship was its possibility. It would be easy to say, yes, a shortcut would be a good thing. We're in total agreement, but there is the mountain, so Maji had faith in the unbuilt road, faith that caused him to venture after it. He had faith enough to set his whole heart on it, faith enough to carve through a mountain, and he did. Dealing with climate change will not be quite like carving through a mountain. It will not be pursuing one thing with ceaseless persistence, because there's not one solution or one path forward for the challenges that we face. Dr. Hayhoe says there is not a silver bullet for our climate challenges, but there is silver buckshot. There's not one thing we need to do. There are many things that we could be doing, many things that would be helpful and are helpful. Some of those things buy us time in the present. Some of those things repair harm from the past or mitigate harm that is yet to come. And some of those things are indeed changing the underlying landscape so that we might create a different future altogether. It all helps. It all matters. And so the good news is no one should feel like there's nothing that can be done when it comes to climate change. There's so much that can be done, and millions of people are doing it, right? None of us are alone in this. The bad news is more needs to be done, and faster. And we've just entered a time of aggressive political rollback of many of the positive changes that have already been made. The good news is that people care about the earth, because of course they do. And people want a future world that their children and grandchildren can inhabit, because of course they do. Only 7% of the population falls into the category of what are called climate dismissives. People whose minds are made up and who will never be never be movable, right? Never be open to change on the issue of climate change. 7%. The other 93% of people, to a greater or lesser degree, are concerned about climate change and are open to climate solutions. Which makes sense because we know there is no planet B, and it is getting harder and harder for anyone to pretend that climate change is not happening. Which means there needs to be continued, faithful advocacy on all of our part about caring for the planet. Even if it feels sometimes like we are trying to carve through a mountain of indifference, distraction, and capitalist short-term bottom line thinking with just a hammer and chisel in our bare hands. Well, the indifference is an illusion. Almost everyone cares about this issue. 93% of people, almost everyone cares about this issue. The distraction is real, right? That's the world we live in. And the institutional challenges are for sure real. The investment of so many in what Joanna Macy calls the world of business as usual. And this is where the faithful advocacy comes in, to cut through the distraction and to organize against business as usual, to lift up a positive vision and positive solutions. It is long-term work to be sure at a time of shrinking timelines. And to do that kind of patient, compassionate, loving, but insistent advocacy is not easy. It may feel like carving a road through a mountain, but its hardship is its possibility. Hopelessness in that sense is easy, but hope calls us to action. Hope calls us to faithfulness. Hope challenges us to do the thing that is ours to do. And to sustain that hope over the long haul, we need to be rooted and resilient. And fortunately, in this religious tradition of Unitarian Universalism, we have been rooted in our love of the earth and our reverence for the natural world for a long time. Right? For hundreds of years, we have written songs and stories and poems and rituals to deepen our spiritual connection to nature and to teach us our place in the interdependent web of existence, and we are still writing poems and sharing them with each other, and still creating music, and still coming together in ritual. And for hundreds of years, we have raised up generations of scientists and thinkers devoted to expanding the reach of our minds and the power of our understanding. And we have taught our young people to care for the earth and all living things, and to approach the natural world with curiosity and reverence and humility. And we are still raising up people like that, and we are still teaching our young people like that, and it's happening right now in this very building while I talk. And we have trained up citizen activists in a humanist tradition that celebrates our power and our obligation to make a difference, all of us. And that teaches us that we are the ones we have been waiting for there is no one else coming to save us. And we are still taking action to this very day. And our Environmental Justice Committee and our community partners and everyone in this congregation is a part of that powerful, faithful action. And we have made it a practice collectively to come together Sunday after Sunday to sing and to celebrate and to reroot ourselves in joy and in wonder and in a positive vision of a world where we care for each other and care for the earth, where we will live again in right relationship with the natural world. This is no paradisal vision. Its hardship is its possibility. Fortunately, we are rooted and resilient. Fortunately, we are faithful. And fortunately, we can do hard things. Our closing hymn today is number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Please rise in body or spirit. Our closing words are by the poet Joy Harjo. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their history too. Talk to them, listen to them. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. We are Earth. Go in peace.